Every morning someone stands in front of a mirror, they fix their hair, they check their face, they look into their own eyes for a second. It feels like a normal part of life. But for most of history, people almost never saw their own faces clearly. A true reflection was rare, expensive, and sometimes even feared. If mirrors are part of your day, share this story and tell me in the comments, have you looked into a mirror today? And now, let us begin the story. Most days begin with a quiet moment in front of a mirror. It may be in the bathroom, it may hang near a door. You look at it without thinking, you adjust your clothes, you brush your hair, maybe you study your face for a few seconds. It feels ordinary, almost invisible in your routine. The mirror is just there, always waiting. But for most of human history, mirrors were rare objects. Many people lived their whole lives without ever seeing their full face. They might catch a quick reflection in water, but the image moved and broke with every ripple. A clear reflection was once a luxury. Sometimes it was even seen as something magical. This is not just a story about mirrors. It is a story about how humans learned to see themselves. Long ago, before metal or glass mirrors, people looked into still water. A quiet lake or a calm pool could act like a mirror, but the image was never perfect. A small wave could break the face into pieces. There is an old Greek myth about a young man named Narcissus. He was very handsome. One day he saw his reflection in a pool of water. He fell in love with the face he saw. He did not know it was his own. He stayed by the water, staring at it until he grew weak and died. From this story we get the word narcissist. A narcissist is a person who loves their own image too much. This myth shows something deep about early reflections. They were not just useful. They felt mysterious. A face in the water could look like another person, a spirit, a twin. As time passed, people began to make the first real mirrors. These were not made of glass. They were made of polished stone. In a place now called Turkey, archaeologists found mirrors made from shiny black stone. This stone is called obsidian. Obsidian is volcanic glass. It forms when hot lava cools quickly. People polished the stone until it became smooth and shiny. When they looked into it, they could see their faces. The reflection was dark but clear enough. These mirrors were made more than 8,000 years ago. They were simple, but they were special. Not everyone owned one. Later, in ancient Egypt, mirrors became more refined. Egyptian mirrors were made of polished metal. Often they used copper or bronze. Bronze is a mix of copper and tin. It is harder and shinier than copper alone. These mirrors had handles. Some handles were shaped like flowers or goddesses. They were both tools and art objects. Egyptian women carried small mirrors with them. They used them to fix their hair or apply makeup, but the mirror was more than a beauty tool. It also had spiritual meaning. The Egyptians believed that the reflection held a part of the soul. They thought mirrors could connect the living and the dead. Because of this, mirrors were sometimes placed in tombs. Think about that for a moment. A small, shiny object lying beside a person for eternity. It was not only for appearance, it was for the journey of the spirit. In ancient China, bronze mirrors also became very popular. These mirrors were often round. The backside was decorated with patterns, animals, or symbols. The front side was polished until it shone. Some Chinese mirrors were believed to hold magical powers. People thought they could chase away evil spirits. Some even believed a mirror could reveal the truth. If a person was dishonest, the mirror would show their real face, not the face they wanted others to see. Dear listener, this idea may feel strange, but it shows how people once viewed mirrors. They were not just objects. They were symbols of truth and the soul. In ancient Greece and Rome, metal mirrors became more common. Rich families owned them. They were made from polished bronze or silver, but even then the reflection was not perfect. The metal could scratch or become dull. Servants often had to polish these mirrors again and again. It was slow work. A good reflection required patience. Still, mirrors remained expensive. Most people still used water to see themselves. A clear metal mirror was a sign of wealth. As the Roman Empire grew, glassmaking also improved. The Romans knew how to make glass. They used it for cups, windows, and small objects. But they had not yet mastered the art of the glass mirror. A true glass mirror needs a thin layer of metal behind it. This metal layer creates the reflection. Without it, the glass is just transparent. That discovery would come much later. After the fall of Rome, much knowledge was lost in Europe. Cities grew quiet. Trade slowed down. Many crafts disappeared or became rare. Mirrors once again became simple objects made of metal. But in the Islamic world, science and craft continued to grow. Glassmaking improved in cities like Damascus and Cairo. Skilled workers learned new ways to shape and polish glass. These skills slowly spread across the Mediterranean. By the Middle Ages, a small city in Italy became famous for its glass. That city was Venice. Venice sat on the water between east and west. Traders brought goods from many lands. Among those goods were ideas, tools, and techniques for making glass. Venetian glassmakers became very skilled. They could make clear, thin glass. This was not easy. Most glass at that time was cloudy or full of bubbles. The rulers of Venice understood the value of this craft. They moved the glassmakers to a small island called Murano. This helped prevent fires in the main city, but it also helped protect their secrets. Glassmaking secrets were guarded closely. A glassmaker was not allowed to leave Murano without permission. If he tried to escape, he could be punished. It may sound extreme, but a good mirror was worth a fortune. And in the quiet workshops of Murano, something new was about to appear. A mirror made of clear glass with a shining metal back. A mirror that showed the face almost as clearly as still water on a calm day. This invention would change homes, fashion, and even the way people thought about themselves. In the late Middle Ages and early Renaissance, the glassmakers of Murano reached a new level of skill. They learned how to place a thin layer of metal behind a sheet of glass. This metal layer created a clear reflection. At first they used a mixture of tin and mercury. Mercury is a shiny liquid metal. It is heavy and dangerous to touch for long periods. But at that time, people did not fully understand its danger. The process was slow and delicate. A glass sheet was placed over the metal mixture. The two layers joined together. Then the mirror was left to dry. If everything went well, the result was a smooth, bright surface. For the first time, people could see their faces clearly, not as a dark shape in metal, not as a broken image in water, but as a true reflection. These Venetian mirrors became famous across Europe. They were large, bright, and beautiful, but they were also very expensive. Only kings, queens, and the richest families could afford them. In some royal courts, a large mirror was treated almost like a treasure chest. It was locked in special rooms. It was cleaned carefully. Servants were told not to touch it without permission. Mirrors became symbols of wealth and power. A large mirror on a wall showed that the owner was rich and important. At the same time, mirrors began to appear in art and stories. Painters used them to show beauty, truth, or vanity. Vanity means too much pride in one's appearance. In many paintings, a woman sits in front of a mirror. She fixes her hair or jewelry. Sometimes, the mirror shows a hidden message. It might reflect another person in the room, or it might show something the main character cannot see. Mirrors became tools of storytelling. They showed not only faces but also secrets. But behind the beauty of Venetian mirrors there was a quiet danger. The workers who made them spent long hours with mercury. They breathed its fumes. Fumes are tiny particles in the air that come from chemicals or smoke. These fumes slowly damaged their bodies. Many mirror makers grew sick. Some lost their memory. Some felt weak or confused. But the work continued. The demand for mirrors was too strong. This is one of the gentle, sad moments in the story of mirrors. The clear reflection on a palace wall often came from the hard lives of workers in hot, dangerous workshops. Still, mirrors kept spreading across Europe. Other countries wanted the secret. France in particular was very interested. In the 1600s, the French king wanted grand palaces filled with light and beauty. He wanted mirrors like the ones in Venice. But buying them from Italy was very expensive. So the French tried to bring the secret to their own land. They invited Venetian glassmakers to France. Some came willingly, others were persuaded with promises of money and safety. Venice was not happy about this. The city feared losing its valuable secret. There were even stories that some glassmakers who left Venice died under strange conditions. Some people believed they were poisoned by agents sent from Venice. We cannot know every detail, but we do know that the secret slowly spread. In France, large mirror workshops appeared. Soon, French mirrors became as famous as the Venetian ones. One of the most famous examples is the Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles. This was a long, shining room filled with tall mirrors and bright windows. Sunlight entered from one side and bounced across the mirrors. The whole room glowed. It looked almost magical. Guests who walked inside felt small, like they were inside a dream. Mirrors were no longer just personal objects. They became part of architecture. They changed the feeling of rooms. They made spaces look larger and brighter. I think this is one of the quiet wonders of mirrors. They do not create light. They simply share it. And sometimes that is enough to change everything. By the 18th and 19th centuries, new methods made mirrors cheaper. Factories replaced small workshops. Machines helped produce large sheets of glass. The use of mercury slowly ended. It was replaced with safer metals like silver. This made mirror making less dangerous. As mirrors became cheaper, more people could afford them. They appeared in middle-class homes, then in small shops, then in almost every house. For the first time, ordinary people could see their own faces every day. Not just in water, not just in dull metal, but in clear glass. This changed daily life in quiet ways. People cared more about their clothes and hair. Barbershops placed mirrors on the walls. Tailors used mirrors to show their work. Even the idea of identity began to change. Identity means how you see yourself and how others see you. When you can look at your own face every day, you start to think about it more. And so, mirrors slowly moved from royal treasures to everyday objects. But their story was not finished. A new century was coming, and with it, a world where reflections would appear everywhere. In the 20th century, mirrors became part of almost every home. They hung in bathrooms, bedrooms, and hallways. Small mirrors sat inside handbags. Large ones filled shop windows and elevators. People no longer saw mirrors as rare or magical. They were simple tools. You used one in the morning, you forgot about it by noon. Factories could now produce huge sheets of glass. They covered the back with a thin layer of silver or aluminum. Aluminum is a light, strong metal. This process was faster and safer than the old mercury methods. Mirrors became cheap, so cheap that people stopped thinking about them. Cars had mirrors. Streets had mirrors at sharp corners. Shops used them to watch for thieves. Doctors used small mirrors to look inside the mouth or ears. A mirror became a quiet helper in many parts of life. Then something even stranger happened. Mirrors began to move from walls into screens. Cameras improved. Phones appeared. Then smartphones arrived. Now, when you open the front camera on your phone, you see your own face on the screen. It feels like a mirror, but it is really a tiny camera and a small display. You can look at yourself at any moment. You can take a photo. You can change the colors, the light, even the shape of your face with filters. A filter is a digital effect. It changes the image on the screen. Some filters make the skin smoother. Some add animal ears or funny glasses. Some change the whole mood of the picture. For the first time in history, people did not just see their reflections. They could also edit them. This changed the meaning of the mirror again. In the past, a mirror showed what was there. It was simple and honest. But a phone screen can show a version of you that is softer, brighter, or more perfect than real life. For some people, this feels fun. For others, it brings quiet pressure. They compare their real face to the filtered one. They begin to feel that their true reflection is not good enough. This is a soft but real struggle of our time. The mirror once showed truth. Now it sometimes shows dreams. Dear listener, this is not a new feeling. Even in ancient times, people feared or respected mirrors. They saw them as tools of truth, or even of the soul. The object stayed the same, but human feelings around it kept changing. I think this tells us something gentle about people. We're always searching for our own face. Not just the face in the mirror, but the deeper one inside. Today, mirrors are everywhere. You see yourself in shop windows as you walk. You catch your reflection in a dark phone screen. You stand in front of the bathroom mirror before leaving the house. It happens so often that it feels normal. But for most of history, this was impossible. A farmer in ancient Egypt might see his face only in still water. A Roman soldier might own a small metal mirror, scratched and dull. A medieval villager, might live a whole life without ever seeing a clear reflection. And now you may see your own face 10 times before lunch. The next time you stand in front of a mirror, you may notice something small. The quiet surface, the way it waits, the way it gives your face back to you without a word. That simple piece of glass carries thousands of years of human effort. Polished stones, shining bronze, dangerous mercury, secret workshops, bright palace halls. All of that lives inside the mirror on your wall. So the next time you look into it, you might pause for just a second, not to check your hair or your clothes, just to notice the face looking back, a face that for most of human history would have remained a mystery.